Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. I wanted to do a special video to share with you my day and my experience at the Doctor Who convention Whooverville 15, which took place at the Quad Cinema in Derby over the weekend. This event was organised by the Hoovers, who are a Doctor Who society at Derby. They meet up twice monthly, as far as I'm aware, through Teams or Zoom and also face-to-face to talk about everything and anything related to Doctor Who. I'll put a link in the description to that society if you feel that you would like to learn more about the Hoovers and the organisation behind it. Needless to say, I thought they were a really friendly bunch who organised this special Doctor Who convention, which had lots of guests, some talk panels, autographs and photo signing with the guest opportunities, as well as stalls, props, lots of cosplayers, and also lots of people just getting together and really just having a good time. So this was my very first time at this particular Doctor Who convention organised by them. As I mentioned, there was some Doctor Who guests, pretty much representing the classic era of Doctor Who, but there was a few for the modern era of Doctor Who as well. Quite a lot of guests for this convention that I've not really met before. They have done a few conventions or Comic-Con circuits, but for whatever reason, I've not seen them. So I was really excited for this one. I thought there was a really good set of guests for this convention. I'm going to read off the list because I don't want to forget anyone. So the people that were at this convention was Carol Ann Ford, of course, Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, way back from 1963. Wendy Padbury, who was, of course, the second Doctor companion Zoe. Katie Manning, who is, of course, the legendary Katie Manning, who was Jo Grant, the third Doctor's companion. Tommy Knight, who is Luke Smith, Sarah Jane Smith's son from the Sarah Jane Adventures. We've got Trevor Cooper, who was Tarkis in the Sixth Doctor story Revelation of the Daleks. He was also involved as the monk in the Robots of Sherwood episode with the 12th Doctor. Dominic Glynn, the composer for the Trial of the Time Lord season, as well as did the Sixth Doctor's theme for the Trial of the Time Lord season as well. Daisy Ashford, who is of course the late Caroline John's daughter, also Geoffrey Beavers's daughter, who she went on to be Liz Shaw in the Big Finish audio adventures, as well as doing other voice work and other acting work as well. Sadie Miller, same as Sadie Miller, who is of course the late Elizabeth Sladen's daughter and Brian Miller's daughter. She did voice work for Big Finish audio, but also was given the opportunity to play Sarah Jane Smith in the Big Finish audio adventures. Producer Philip Hinchcliffe, particularly from the Tom Baker era of Doctor Who from 74 to 77. Again, another great name to have. Roger Murray Leach, who was the visual effects designer for Doctor Who back in the 70s. Graham Harper as well, of course, amazing television director, and directed such classic Doctor Who stories, Case of Androzani and Revelation of the Daleks, but went on to direct lots of modern Doctor Who episodes, including Doomsday, Turn Left, Journey's End, and many more. Those were the guests that was part of the actual ticket for the event, for the entry fee event. There were a couple of sponsored guests as well. We had Matt Irvine, who was of course a prop designer for Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, and kind of custodial to the canine prop that was used in Doctor Who. And David Goodison, who was of course Davros in the fourth Doctor story Destiny of the Daleks. So those didn't come with your autographs for these ticket events. They were called sponsored guests, so they were paying a separate fee if you wanted their autographs. So I arrived at the Quad Cinema in Derby, and once I got in, I was given this autograph ticket. So basically you just go around They sign your name once you've got the signatures. Nearly got a full house on that one. I'll explain a bit more later in this video. But I was also given this wonderful program provided by Whooverville. And if you open it up inside, it gave all the details of what was going on at that event and where everyone was going to be. So there's lots of panels, as you can see here, where all the sort of dealer rooms are, where all the guests are going to be as well. So yeah, very handy program. As I entered, I was a little bit overwhelmed because I wasn't quite sure how this was all going to work. I kind of thought it was going to be sort of similar to a Comic-Con, and to a certain extent there were similarities, but this was in a sort of more intimate venue, should we say. There was it was a sold out ticket event. 350 people were at this event on Saturday, so that was an amazing achievement. And yeah, like I said, it was just in this enclosed sort of intimate event location at the Quad Cinema. And yeah, there was lots of people just all sort of milling around, catching up with each other. So it was really nice to see all these people dressed in various cosplay outfits. As I saw as I entered the into the cinema, there was quite a lot of people dressed as various doctors, and someone was dressed as Rassilon as well, or one of the Time Lords. I'm assuming they were part of the Whooverville Society, because they were really playing the part. Loved that every time we were all sort of stood there chatting, they were sort of holding their lapels, particularly the first Doctor, and the second Doctor was playing the recorder and did a pretty good job as well. So I salute you both for your enthusiasm and really getting into the role as the Doctors. But yeah, as I sort of wandered around and had a look, so out in the lift in the bottom on the ground floor was Philip Hinchcliffe. He just came out the lift and no one really batted an eyelid. I don't know, that was kind of more sort of out of respect type of thing, because I was like, oh my gosh, it's Philip Hinchcliffe, you know. So that was like, to me, it just felt really bizarre. But I thought, well, I'll just play along and sort of like, you know, not, you know, obviously nod gracefully if he was sort of in eye contact, but sort of left him be, because obviously that was, you know, that was definitely the right thing to do, really, you know, instead of hounding him for autographs or photos and selfies and things like that. Not, you know, that's not really fair. So as I was sort of exploring the actual cinema and the layout of this event, I bumped into none other than Mr. TARDIS from Mr. TARDIS Reviews, the YouTuber, William. And yeah, I straight away said hello and just gabbled a load of stuff at him, poor guy. I was sort of like, you know, you know, he's one of the inspirations for this particular channel myself, you know, to sort of get in and talk about Doctor Who. And yeah, I've followed his work for a long time. Really great guy. And very nice to talk to. He was very welcoming, you know, shook my hand, you know, say thanks very much for watching the watching his work on YouTube. And you know, he just asked if this was my first time at Whooverville, and said yes, and like, oh, you're going to be in for a treat. I was here, like, you know, saying that he was here last year, and that kind of prompted him to be here this year. Throughout the day, there was also a lot of talk panels, and on that particular morning I decided to go to the Sadie Miller and Daisy Ashford talk panel, as you know, I've been saying quite a lot on this channel that I wanted to get more into Big Finish audios, and particularly because they are daughters of legendary Doctor Who guest stars and companions, that I thought this would be a really good opportunity to sort of listen to their talks and sort of get into a bit, know a bit more of their sort of work in Big Finish audio. So I was there at the panel, and it was a really sort of just heartwarming panel. The guy that was doing the compare, or the interviewee, he did a really good job. You know, sort of like being very tactful, obviously because of the loss of their mums respectively, but also sort of like celebrating their time as you know, when they got into sort of Doctor Who, or how they got into Doctor Who, and particularly their time on the Comic Cons or convention circuits, along with Elizabeth Sladen and Caroline John, respectively. So for Sadie, she was kind of in and amongst all the comic conventions or Doctor Who conventions at quite a young age with her mum. She used to go with her, and yeah, just sort of shared stories of like getting being in the car with John Pertwee for going for a lift somewhere, and he was always quite sort of chatty and friendly and approachable to her. But yeah, talking to Tom Baker, and sort of how she kind of got involved with Big Finish. Same with Daisy Ashford. For her, it was more at a later age that she did the comic conventions, the Doctor Who conventions, with her mum Caroline Shaw, because Caroline, through Daisy's words, she kind of took a step back. She wanted to be a mum and be a and sort of take away took a step back from sort of acting and those types of conventions. And Daisy mentioned that when Caroline John did go to the Doctor Who conventions, there was a lot of nervousness about it. She was really nervous that not many people wanted to see her, whether she was going to be well received. And it was a huge sigh of release when she got this big round of applause when she was introduced to this convention. And that's absolutely fantastic stories to hear. And yeah, definitely they were well loved and great sort of, great companions in their own respect. Different legacies, of course, but yeah, fantastic sort of stories to hear. And obviously when they went into conversations about when Sadie and Daisy was approached to be to be Sarah Jane and Liz Shaw respectively, for Big Finish Audios, that they jumped at the chance to say yes. They didn't really sort of take much time to sort of think about it, but obviously processed it all as well, because obviously, it's a very surreal thing to do, and quite a difficult, I would say, difficult decision to make. I think Daisy said that it's either Daisy or Sadie said that their fathers have not listened to any of their work as the companions, because I think that would probably be a bit too real for them. I think that would be too difficult to do, and definitely respect that decision. But all in all, that was a really nice panel. I was so glad that I had the opportunity to sit there and listen to this interview and stuff. And obviously people was asking questions as well. You had that opportunity to do so. But I just really enjoyed that. And just a great start to this convention. So after that panel, I decided to go downstairs and get some autographs. And how it kind of worked, and I think how me and Mr. TARDIS kind of worked it at the very least, because we just bumped into each other again in the queue, so we were just all queuing there, and we were swapping notes of what was going to get signed. So Mr. Tyres had a lot of DVDs, and I had some particular special, something really special that I did share to him, and he thought, "Oh my god, that is so cool! That is really inspirational." Inspiring, he said, about this particular item that I was getting signed by all the guests there. So yeah, we kind of did this sort of battle plan of, and I think this is how it was supposed to have worked, was you went round all the tables of all the guests that was there, and just get a signature off each, and then obviously someone will be sat next to him and do a tick or a signature to say that you've had your one free autograph. You did have opportunities to have more autographs, but there would have been a separate charge for that. So you can get your free one as well as your additional paid autograph. Either cash or card. In terms of the photographs, I didn't go for any photo opportunities. I'm more an autograph person. If you're into photographs, that's great. I think you had to do that in advance. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you was there and it might have been a different experience. But as far as I'm aware, it was either book it in advance or you could potentially queue. The first person I met was Graham Harper, and yeah, such a delight. Honestly, all the guests were a delight. And yeah, everyone was like just really warm and embracing, and just again really friendly. You know, there's always that sort of thing about Comic Cons or conventions where everyone has a bit of an off day, but definitely not the case here. Everyone was just so excited to meet everyone, and yeah, were just absolutely on full form. And so I asked Graham Harper what was his favourite sort of program or works that he's done. I didn't specifically targeting Doctor Who in that sort of respect, just just admiring his work and just asking what he said. But he did go into sort of the more Doctor Who stuff. So he said like his top four works was Revelation of the Daleks. Really liked Doomsday. He loved Billy Piper's performance in Doomsday. Turn Left as well, and Journey's End. Stolen Earth was what he liked out the most. And yeah, we were sort of swapping notes, and I said, honestly, he was fantastic. I mentioned that with Revelation and him going more onto the floor where it wasn't really sort of done in those days at the BBC. The usually directors was way up in the box, and they just passed sheets to a runner to sort of any notes for the actors. So he was like the person on the floor, really sort of bringing that energy. And he thanked me for that compliment, but he said really I'd sort of took that inspiration from Douglas Camfield. He was the one that kind of did a similar sort of thing, and when he said that kind of clicked with sort of his directions of work in Doctor Who. Again, a legendary director for classic Doctor Who, and again, yeah, really nice guy, Graham Miller. So yeah, he signed my board, give you a bit of clue there, and moved on to the next person, which was Dominic Glynn, composer, as I said earlier, for particularly the Trial of the Time Lord seasons, Colin Baker's second season as the Sixth Doctor. And yeah, again, really nice guy, and spoke to sort of like asked him, how he felt when he was asked to do particularly the theme for Doctor Who, and how to sort of, how we made it sort of different, really. And he said he was shocked but excited at the same time, really nervous about it, but sort of like, you say yes to everything and you can't really go too far on, and then work out basically how to deal with the wheres and whys for that particular question. So but yeah, we talked about the epic scene in Trial of the Time Lord where the TARDIS is being beamed down or dragged down by the space station ready for this trial, and he said that piece of music was kind of the demo that he used, and then he was approached to do the theme. So again, terrific sort of conversation that I had with Dominic, and he very kindly signed my Trial of the Time Lord TARDIS tin from the 30th Doctor Who 30th anniversary VHS release. So he is part of that legendary panel on there, as you can see, with Colin Baker, Nicola Bryant, Brian Blessed. Who else is on there? Bonnie Langford, of course, Michael Jaston, Honor Blackman, Neil Saban, and right here now is Dominic Glynn, all just one big signature. Don't blame him at all. He's got all that space for his own. He deserves it. So yeah, he signed that wonderful tin. Moving on to the next person. Oh, sorry, before I do that, that's the part where Mr. TARDIS came up to me and went, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but I recorded a little bit of that particular board that you got signed there. Do you mind if I use it? Because I'm vlogging this event as well. Do you mind if I use that for my own vlog video on YouTube?" And I said, "Absolutely." So there will be a clip on there. Depending on when this gets released, it might already been put up already on his YouTube channel. Check it out. Anyway, it's going to be fantastic. But yeah, I'm part of his little world in that sort of respect. So yeah, I was really chuffed that he asked that he wanted to show that. So moving on to Caroline Ford, again, just looking glamorous, really. She was looking fantastic. And we talked about this particular item that I got signed, and that sort of chin wag. And also, I just asked what was kind of one of her most memorable times filming Doctor Who back in the 60s, and she said Planet of the Giants. She really loved the story. She loved how how to technically do all those big giant props of obviously being shrunk down to size. And yeah, it's a fun story. Yeah, I totally agree with her. I can understand why she has particular fond memories of that story. Break for lunch, there was more autographs to be had. So I went back into the queue again and it started to get really busy. If I was going to do any sort of nitpick, really, in terms of any, I wouldn't even say bad points, really, any sort of minor points from this event was how the queue kind of went for the autographs. It was all done in one area in the gallery. And how me and Mr. TARDIS, and I think how the system should have worked was you go around the tables and get your signature. But as it kind of got busy throughout the day, there was you could tell who was kind of the more popular guests. So I would say, in my eyes, don't get me wrong, everyone got opportunities to have signatures and things like that. So no one was really bored or twiddling the thumbs or anything else like that. Or if they were talking to other guests. The guests were talking to each other. But I would say everyone had their moment in the sun. But I would say if there was the most popular guest there was Katie Manning, Caroline Ford, and Sadie Miller and Daisy Ashford. So what happened was I went into the queue again to go around the tables because at that point that morning, when I first did it, Wendy Pabbery, Sadie Miller, and Daisy Ashford, they were doing other sort of parts, probably the photography shoots. So they came back to the autograph tables in the afternoon. So we got around to the queue, and then when I was just getting towards the front part of the queue, they started to do a separate queue for Katie Manning because she was just super busy. Um, so it got to a point where um, you kind of queue around the table for all the other guests, but then there was a separate queue for Katie Manning, which you had to. There were damned if you do, damned if you don't. In that scenario, I think what I probably would have done is just yes, probably do a separate queuing for Katie Manning because there were a lot of people that was there for Katie, quite rightly so. But I think this should have let people who was also who was queuing around the table as the system was originally kind of going, should have been allowed to sort of just shuffle in between because then I think that would have been easier to have managed that queue and everyone still got that turn. The Don't get me wrong, the organisers were very apologetic about the sort of queuing later on in the convention, and they said, "Oh, I'm really really sorry. That's not really happened before. It's something that we've definitely taken on board for the next convention that we organise." So yeah, it was just one of those things. I've been in tons of long queues before. It didn't do anything to dampen my spirits of the day whatsoever. So this wasn't like a gripe. That was just a minor nitpick for me. I would have either done either separate queues for all the guests or do the queuing sort of around the tables as I think it was originally meant to have done. And if they were going to do one for a particular guest that was just longer than the others, then let people to sort of shuffle into that queue because I think that was only fair. I think it wouldn't have taken any sort of more time. I think sort of for me, because I spot that with Mr. TARDIS, he was in a similar queue to me again that afternoon, and then went off and queued up for Katie Manning. So he was in that queue for a long, long time, whilst I went off and did other things. So anyway, back to that queue. So yeah, when I was queuing up, I met Sadie Miller and Daisy Ashford, and they were just absolute gems. They were amazing. So they looked at my board and they went, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this before." And I can't remember if it was Sadie or if it was Daisy, but they asked to take a photo of it, and I said, "Absolutely, you can do that." And there was all sort of like, you know, an hour in whereabouts to put their signatures on there. And obviously I said, "Look, thank you for all your work on Big Finish." And I really enjoyed the panel that morning, so they were very grateful for that. Next was Trevor Cooper, and we was talking about his time as Tarkis on Revelation of the Daleks, particularly. Yeah, he really loved that. He was kind of like this Lauren Hardy type of character that Graham Harper was kind of looking for, who was sat next to Graham Harper, so it was a quick hello again, and having sort of a bit of a three-way conversation. And I always thought that, yeah, it's bizarre that Lilt and Tarkis were lovable characters in their own right, but also quite evil, because they did torture a poor guy in Revelation of the Daleks. So it was a very weird juxtaposition of sort of characters and motives, which never really sort of taken too much thought on before. But yeah, it was nice to sort of share that moment with Trevor Cooper. Moving on, I kind of got out of that queue. Oh, sorry, Wendy Padbury. Wendy Padbury was there that afternoon as Zoe, and yeah, she was having a wonderful time. Again, signed my board and looked at it in complete sort of awe as well, and a lot of guests were as well. So thank you very much for all the for all of you that attended and complimented on the item that I wanted signed and my top as well. Then I moved on to Philip Hinchcliffe. He was just in a separate part of the queue. I was going to go and queue up for Katie Manning, but I didn't in the end, because there was so much other things that I wanted to see, and that queue was very, very big. And I didn't mind, because I have met Katie a couple of times at different Comic Cons, and you know, if it was a smaller queue, I would have done so, because it would have been nice to have seen Katie again. But I took great joy in, one, someone else having the opportunity that might not have seen Katie before, having an opportunity to do so, and two, seeing Katie with all the guests. No, like I said, the queues were busy, but no one felt rushed. I definitely didn't feel rushed at my time with all the guests that I had the fortune of seeing, and it was really nice for Katie talking to all these fans and hugging and taking selfies, and yeah, just having a great time, you know. So I heard Katie from a distance, and it looked like she was having a great time, and whoever was sharing those moments definitely had a good time as well. Yeah, I remember seeing one of the guests sort of just really excited and like, "Oh my gosh, best day ever that I managed to meet Katie Manning," and other guests as well. So yeah, after that, I went into another section where Philip Hinchcliffe was, and got his autograph as well, again admiring the item that I wanted signing. And yeah, and I bumped into him quite a lot at this convention, because people were just wandering around. It wasn't like a Comic Con where all the guests can get like little secret gangways to go into either from point A to point B. They were just in and amongst everyone, really, and all sort of, you know, everyone was just moving out of the way if they needed to, and just being respectful of their area as well. But yeah, bumping into Philip Hinchcliffe at in the toilet was just very surreal to me. And he was sort of like, it was only just me and him as well. So I was washing her hands. He was like, "Oh, hi, how are you? Have you had a good time?" I went, "Yeah, are you?" And just sort of chatting away. And he was just like combing her hair, sort of like getting ready to go on for his panel. And the same thing happened in the afternoon as well. I saw Matt Irvine going into a lift with a canine prop, a working canine prop. So I thought, right, I'm going to dash up the stairs, and managed to catch a video of Canine and Matt coming out of this lift, ready to go for their panel. So later that afternoon, I took the time out and checked out the merchandise stores that was there on that day. And yeah, there weren't like tons and tons of it, but there was enough of it, and all very reasonably priced, I would say. There was quite a lot from the character range of action figures, and I quite like to see that, because I know they've got some of them at home, and sort of like, oh, I wonder how much they fetch now, and go, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. But yeah, they were all reasonably priced. I don't think there was like eye-watering extravagant or anything like that. I think they were just pretty much set at the right price. But there was a nice variety as well. Not only the character figures were the majority, but there was one stall that had Dalek soaps. I think he's created them himself, and there was also like a Daypole Who 2 vehicle, the big silver vehicle that John Pertwee drove in on the Invasion of the Dinosaurs and Planet of the Spiders. I don't know if that was custom made. I never got the chance to ask him, because he was busy talking to someone else. Sorry, I just stubbed my toe then. Ow. Yeah, back to this video. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if that was custom made or not, but that looks glorious. I wish I took a photo of it as well. But if you knew, or anyone can let me know in the comments if you was there at the at this convention, please let me know in the comments, because that was a fantastic piece of merchandise. But the merchandise that I did manage to get, I got some DVDs from the Real Time Pictures Productions. So they were selling these DVDs £10 each, or 3 for £20. So I thought it was a really good bargain. So I ended up getting 4 in the end. So starting off with Day of the Daughters, which was a documentary that I wanted to see quite a long time. It was released last year, I believe. Copyright 2024. I'm sure it was last year. So it was Nicholas Briggs interviewing Sadie Miller and Daisy Ashford, pretty much just before or just after they said yes to being Sarah Jane and Liz Shaw respectively for Big Finish Audio. So really looking forward to watching that, and I'll probably have a little review of that later on this channel. The other the other 3 DVDs that I managed to pick up was Longleat. This was something that I wanted to do for last year's sort of 60th anniversary Doctor Who celebrations, but I will, again, something that I'll review at some point. So basically footage from the infamous Longleat Doctor Who convention back in 1983. So again, looking forward to checking them out. And then just on a whim at the end, I just saw it and just fell in love with the title, Patrick Troughton in America. In America. So this is all of, I'm assuming, his time on various Doctor Who conventions in America. Exclusive PBS appearances as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to these DVDs. I'm sure I'll check them out and review them at some point on this channel. I also took the time to just chat with a lot of cosplayers and just general people, really. There were some fantastic cosplayers out there. Particularly one lady, my favorite of the bunch was this one lady who was dressed as the 5th Doctor, but changed trousers for tights, and it worked really well. And I think she had some TARDIS earrings as well. I've TARDIS or canine, I can't quite remember. Maybe a friend had the canine earrings, but honestly, they were so nice. And yeah, that was easily my personal favorite cosplay of the day. But there was some fantastic cosplayers out there. Like I said, the 1st and 2nd Doctors, a really tall 3rd Doctor doing the sort of the shoulder back with the 2nd Doctor. I just didn't get a chance to get that photo when they quickly did that. Yeah, Time Lord, as I've said before. There was a cool 11th Doctor as well. There was some Daleks, of course. We had some Daleks and a Cyberman that tickled my chin. And as I was asking for a photograph of him, he just decided to march up and tickle my chin. He was a very naughty but very funny Cyberman. He was just going around, bouncing around, skipping around. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Yes, Daleks. We had a couple of Dalek props as well. One was kind of like in tribute to Remembrance of the Daleks. And it kind of felt like one of those sort of props that you could blow up if you wanted to. I'm sure they won't, but that's kind of like, if it was used for filming, that's kind of what it would do. And some really cool masks as well and props. from Doctor Who. There was some really cool masks, particularly the Sontaran one. That was my personal favourite that was on this table. And also we had a TARDIS. This was a TARDIS that you could hire out as well to be used for whatever party that you were organising. But inside the TARDIS was a load of signatures from various Doctor Who guests and legends from Doctor Who. So that was really cool to see. I'm pretty sure from the Mr. TARDIS video that he did last year, that was the one that they asked him to sign. They didn't ask me, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, that was really cool to see in person, up close and personal. And they also did a load of smaller TARDISes, all custom made. There's one that you could buy. They all custom made it to each individual Doctor as well. So you had like the pink covered TARDIS from the Happiness Patrol, for example, or the War Doctor's TARDIS, or the 13th Doctor's TARDIS, all these different TARDISes. And yeah, it was really cool to see. I round off the afternoon by going to one of the final panels of the day, which was Graham Harper's and Trevor Cooper reminiscing on their time together on Revelation of the Daleks, as well as other work that they did together in Star Cops as well. And not a show that I don't overly remember, but quite fascinated to check out. So if you remember Star Cops, let me know in the comments below, please. But yes, they were sharing their time on Revelation of the Daleks, and how the TV how making TV has changed so dramatically in 40 years or so, or 35 to 40 years. So for Graham Harper, unless there was like particular guest stars that John Nathan Turner wanted in specifically for that role, as well as obviously Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant, he had pretty much free reign of who he would like to try and cast for the particular stories that he worked on. So yeah, he was the one that asked for Christopher Gable, for Kate Vanjazani as Cyrus Jack, and obviously he was asking for all these wonderful actors and actresses for Revelation of the Daleks. I think John Nathan Turner chose Alexa Sale, to a point where Graham Harper was saying that he wasn't, for the rehearsal part of it, he wasn't really saying much, he wasn't really giving much away, but he was just saying that I will do it on the day, which, John Nathan Turner, through Graham's words, was very nervous about and considered recasting, but Graham said no, we're just going to have to trust him and just let him do his thing. And yeah, he did an outstanding comical performance. But yeah, it was quite fascinating to know that that's kind of what they did back then. But now that wouldn't happen. It would basically, you are there to direct these people whether you want them there or not. You don't. Basically, Graham doesn't have, or any directors these days don't have that choice of who you want in these particular roles. So that was quite a fascinating look into that, and same as Trevor Cooper, it was like a conversation with the director, and away you go. Where nowadays, where you're up for a role, even if you had a chance, a brief chance of a casting director, with the casting director, that doesn't guarantee you that you've got this role. It's just a formal interview these days. All the rest now are kind of like self-directed videos that you just do as an audition piece for these particular roles. So yeah, it was just a nice, fascinating look behind the scenes of Doctor Who and TV as a whole, which I just found fascinating. And it was also quite interesting for Revelation of the Daleks, where obviously I mentioned in my review of that particular story that Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant weren't very much involved in that kind of story. And you could easily sort of argue that they were a little bit surplus to requirements, because all the rest of the characters was just so rich and engaging that they pretty much carried the story. What I did learn from this convention and that particular panel was that was mainly because Colin and Nicola was busy doing the John Nathan Turner panto at that time, so they didn't have as much studio time as the rest of the characters. So it was only in editing that Graham Harper realised that, oh, I hadn't had much time with Colin and Nicola, and that was kind of the reason why. But for that particular story, it does actually work and doesn't really harm that the Sixth Doctor and Perry wasn't particularly involved in that story. As the cinema itself, I thought it looked really, really nice. Yeah, it's an independent cinema. I thought the ticket pricing, I just had a look on the board of the ticket pricing. I thought that was quite fair for the pricing. Obviously, keeping competitive as well. And yeah, I also thought it was quite fascinating that there was some seats in both screens. So there's two screening rooms for this particular cinema that I saw. But yeah, I did find it quite fascinating that there was a few seats where you have individual backrests, but the cushion was together. So if it was like a couple, you can literally sit together on a sofa as a couple watching a film. So yeah, I thought that was quite unique. I've never seen that in cinemas before. But the final part of the kind of the panel was the thank you and goodbyes by the Hoovers, the hosts of the Hoovers and this particular convention. They also did a raffle ticket as well, raffle prizes, and there were really good prizes. I didn't win, sadly. I was two numbers away actually. One that got called out was 272 and I was 270. So I was so close, but yet so far. But well done for all those that did manage to get some raffle prizes, because there was some really good ones. There was some like Doctors and TARDIS character figures. There was autographs from celebrities as well, particularly ones that sadly no longer with us as well. And yeah, just all sorts of different prizes. And once they went through that, they sort of, they thanked everyone for attending this event and making it such a success. They did apologize again about the queuing system from earlier that afternoon. It was, it was something that was on control, and really was apologetic about it. But something that they will definitely learn for the next convention. And normally they're saying that normally that they would be announcing the date for Whooverville 16, but they couldn't because they don't know whether it's going to be at the Quad Cinema. So basically, this cinema is well, in their words, dire straits, and they don't know whether they're going to be here next year due to funding. So particularly for this convention, the Quad give the Hoovers a budget, and then they work with that budget to get the guests and hotel fees and catering fees and all that kind of stuff. And then the rest of it is just for profit for the Quad. They're basically doing something for this independent cinema, which I thought was really nice. That's a really nice thing to do, particularly for Derby. Yeah, I had a fantastic time. It was a great location for Hooverville 15. It was only like a 17-minute walk from the train station, very easy to get to. And yeah, just had an absolute blast with everyone that I met, and yeah, loved it. It felt like a convention. It didn't feel like a Comic-Con. Comic-Con to me is kind of like you had lots of things, lots of people, where it did feel like a convention solely for Doctor Who and sharing our love for Doctor Who. And that's what I felt about it. And not to say that Comic-Cons are bad or anything. They're just a very different, it just had a different feel to this convention, really. I just felt the love and passion for Doctor Who. Let me know in the comments below if you were lucky enough to have attended Whooverville 15. I hope it's one of the people that I did meet as well, and sorry if I didn't meet many more because there was so many people, so little time. But yeah, let me know if you went to this convention. What was your memories of that day, and have you been to a Whoville convention before? What was your experience then? Or what has been like your favourite Doctor Who convention or Comic-Con that you have attended? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. Hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Facebook and X. And do check out my other fantastic Doctor Who related content on the Timey Wimey Review TikTok page. And of course, right here on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. Stay tuned to this channel though, because I will be revealing what item I got signed by so many of the Doctor Who convention guests this weekend. It's going to be a special video, I guarantee it. But until then, thank you very much. Until we meet again.